They say kindness is strength, that compassion changes the world, that the soft heart is mightier than the iron fist. But what if kindness in the wrong hands is not strength, but strategy? What if the smile you trust is the mask of control? And what if the world you live in runs not on cruelty, but on carefully crafted kindness? Machiavelli, the man whose name became synonymous with power and manipulation, understood something most of us refuse to see. He knew that kindness is not always virtue. Sometimes it's a weapon sharper than any sword, quieter than any threat, and far more effective than fear itself. Because fear may force obedience, but kindness earns devotion, and that's where real power begins. In every age, from kings to corporations, from politicians to everyday relationships, control has never been just about domination. It's about influence. It's about making people want to obey. It's about turning choice into illusion, and manipulation into something that feels like love. This is the hidden power of kindness, the soft art of control, a lesson that Machiavelli understood centuries ago, and that still shapes the psychology of power today. So in this video, we'll uncover how kindness, when used strategically, becomes the most effective form of manipulation. We'll explore the ideas that Machiavelli hinted at in The Prince, and reveal how the very thing we praise as good can enslave us with invisible chains. Let's begin. Part 1. The Mask of Virtue. Machiavelli believed that to rule, or simply to survive, a person must appear virtuous, even if he is not. He wrote, "It is not necessary for a prince to have all the virtuous qualities, but it is necessary to appear to have them." Why? Because appearance is power. The world is built not on truth, but on perception. People do not follow reality. They follow what they believe is real. And nothing is more believable than kindness. The gentle tone, the humble gesture, the comforting presence, these things disarm suspicion. They lower defenses. They make us surrender willingly. A cruel ruler might command obedience, but a kind one commands hearts, and hearts once owned will defend their master even against truth itself. Machiavelli understood that the appearance of kindness is the ultimate disguise, a mask that conceals ambition, manipulation, and control. It is the face of virtue worn by those who seek to lead without question, to influence without resistance. And it works because human beings crave goodness. We want to believe in kindness. We need to. It gives meaning to a chaotic world. It allows us to trust, to love, to belong. So when someone offers kindness, we open our gates. We let them in. And once they are inside, control no longer needs to be forced, and it flows naturally. The masterstroke of manipulation isn't domination through fear, it's seduction through compassion. The one who pretends to care will always have more power than the one who openly commands. Because control hidden within kindness doesn't feel like control at all. It feels like safety. That's how the most subtle forms of tyranny begin. Not with threats, but with gifts. Not with cruelty, but with care. And Machiavelli warned us, in politics, in power, even in relationships, the image of virtue is more important than virtue itself. Because when people believe you are kind, they will forgive anything. They will excuse your flaws, defend your lies, and give you loyalty you never had to demand. That's the first law of the hidden power of kindness. Appear kind and you will control without effort. Part 2. The Psychology of Gentle Control. But Machiavelli didn't stop at appearances. He understood the deeper psychology, the way kindness rewires the human mind. Kindness, when used strategically, creates dependence. Think about it. When someone saves you, comforts you, praises you, or gives you what you crave, your mind forms a bond. You feel gratitude. You feel connection. And from that connection grows loyalty. This is not evil, it's human nature. But the Machiavellian mind sees it as a tool. Because when people are bound by gratitude, they rarely rebel. They feel indebted. They want to please the hand that feeds them. That's why powerful people, from ancient rulers to modern influencers, use generosity to gain control. They give not out of love, but out of strategy. They offer kindness, not because they care, but because it makes others need them. Machiavelli might say, if you must make a man your servant, First, make him feel you are his savior. The moment you become the source of someone's happiness, validation, or security, you become their master, even if you never say a word. That's the paradox of kindness. It enslaves through gratitude. It dominates through affection. Modern psychology proves what Machiavelli intuited centuries ago. The brain reacts to kindness as if it were safety. It releases dopamine, oxytocin, the chemicals of trust and love. And once that bond is formed, logic becomes powerless. The victim doesn't feel controlled, they feel chosen. That's why kindness in skilled hands becomes the perfect manipulation, because it hides its true purpose under the language of love. It asks nothing directly, yet receives everything freely. Machiavelli's lesson here is not to abandon kindness, but to recognize its dual nature. Kindness is power, and like all power, it can build or destroy. He teaches us awareness, to see through false virtue, to recognize when kindness is genuine, and when it's a strategy designed to control thought, emotion, and loyalty. The hidden power of kindness is not in what it gives, but in what it takes silently. It takes your guard, your will, your ability to question, and by the time you realize it, the chains are already silk and invisible, beautiful and unbreakable. That's the second law of the hidden power of kindness. Control through care lasts longer than control through fear, because fear creates enemies, but kindness creates followers, and followers, when blinded by affection, will defend even their own oppression, believing it's love. Part 3. The Sweet Prison of Gratitude. There is a reason Machiavelli warned rulers to give carefully, because the moment you give too much, people stop seeing the value of freedom. They begin to associate comfort with control and submission with security. This is what he understood better than anyone. Human beings rarely revolt against kindness or even when it cages them. They would rather live in a sweet prison than face the uncertainty of independence. Every gesture of generosity, every act of mercy creates a subtle emotional debt. You begin to think, I owe them, and this sense of owing becomes invisible rope, soft, unnoticeable, but binding. It tugs gently at your choices, your beliefs, your loyalty. Machiavelli saw this dynamic everywhere, in the loyalty of subjects to their kings, soldiers to their generals, citizens to their governments. He understood that people don't just follow out of fear. They follow out of comfort. They follow the one who feeds them, praises them, and saves them from pain. And that's the brilliance and the danger of kindness used strategically. It creates devotion not by demand, but by dependency. You stop asking what is right and start asking what will please them. That is how control deepens. When your mind begins to protect your master instead of your freedom. In the modern world, the same principle operates silently. Corporations that care, influencers who connect, leaders who listen, often use kindness as a brand, a design of manipulation. They don't command loyalty, they cultivate it through gratitude. Because when people are thankful, they stop questioning. This is what Machiavelli meant when he wrote that men are quick to forget the death of their father, but not the loss of their inheritance. We remember what makes us feel secure. We protect what makes us feel safe, even when that safety is an illusion. And so the prison grows, not with walls, but with warmth, not with threats, but with kindness. That's the third law of the hidden power of kindness. The comfort they give becomes the chain you wear. Part 4. The Mirror of Control. Machiavelli didn't just study rulers, he studied people. He saw that control is never one-sided. Every manipulator requires a willing believer. Every controller feeds on the need to be cared for. He would say, the most dangerous illusion is not that others are kind, but that they are kind for your sake. In truth, most acts of kindness and power are not mirrors of your worth. They are mirrors of their intent. They show you what they want you to see, not who they truly are. Machiavelli taught that the wise man looks not at the gift, but at the giver. Not at the smile, but at the motive behind it. Because control begins the moment you stop questioning why someone wants your trust. And yet here lies the tragedy. The human heart longs to believe. We crave warmth in a cold world, and we mistake every gentle light for the sun. This is what allows manipulation to thrive. Our hunger for love blinds us to the politics of care. The Machiavellian mind understands this flaw and uses it. He knows that if he can mirror what you desire, he can own what you are. If he can reflect your values, he can rewrite your truth. That's why so many forms of modern control no longer look like tyranny. They look like empathy. They sound like understanding. They feel like home. The master of manipulation no longer raises his voice, or he lowers it. He speaks softly, smiles warmly, listens carefully, and in that silence he gains what no threat could ever earn: your trust. Machiavelli would warn, beware the one who makes you feel understood too quickly, for understanding can be the first step to ownership. The mirror of control doesn't show who you are, it shows who they want you to be. Every compliment, every act of generosity is a brushstroke painting your loyalty. This is the fourth law of the hidden power of kindness. Control is not imposed, it is reflected. The more you see yourself in their kindness, the deeper their influence becomes. Part 5. The eternal game of influence. Kindness, fear, loyalty, deception. Machiavelli saw them all as tools, not morals. He didn't worship cruelty. He didn't glorify deceit. He studied power like a scientist studies gravity, not as good or evil, but as inevitable. And his most haunting realization was this: power doesn't survive on force. It survives on perception. And the greatest perception of all is that of goodness. That's why every empire, every system of influence, every form of leadership must eventually learn the art of kind control. To appear gentle is to appear just. To appear caring is to appear moral. And once morality is on your side, no one questions your rule. Machiavelli understood that the truly powerful never fight for control. They make others offer it. They design a world where obedience feels like compassion and servitude feels like purpose. They don't enslave bodies, they capture hearts. But what makes this lesson eternal is that it's not only about rulers and empires, it's about you and me. Because each of us in some way plays both roles, the manipulator and the manipulated. We use kindness to influence others. We surrender to kindness that flatters our ego. And in this endless dance, the question is not who controls, but who understands control. Machiavelli's wisdom is not a call to cruelty. It's a call to awareness. To open our eyes to the duality of virtue, to see that kindness, when unexamined, can be as dangerous as hate. The one who knows this truth becomes untouchable, because awareness breaks illusion. Once you see the mechanism, it no longer works on you. And so the fifth law of the hidden power of kindness is this: the only escape from manipulation is consciousness. Kindness, once seen clearly, loses its control. So learn to question even the gentle. Learn to observe even the caring. Because sometimes the hands that hold you are the same that bind you. And sometimes the sweetest words carry the sharpest chains. Machiavelli's lesson is not cynicism, it's strength. He doesn't ask you to stop being kind. He asks you to stop being blind. Kindness is a force, neutral, powerful, eternal. In the hands of the wise, it becomes healing. In the hands of the cunning, it becomes control. The choice is yours. Will you use kindness to free or to rule? Because in the end, the world doesn't bow to cruelty. It bows to comfort. It kneels before compassion. And that, Machiavelli would say, is the true face of power. Part 6. The reversal of power. Machiavelli's true genius was not in teaching manipulation. It was in revealing it. He wrote for those who sought power, but his words also arm those who refuse to be its victims. Because once you understand the mechanics of influence, you begin to see the invisible threads that guide every decision, every loyalty, every emotion you thought was yours alone. In his time, rulers used religion, reputation, and charity to bind the hearts of their people. Today, the same game continues, only the tools have changed. Now it's media, image, virtue signaling, emotional branding, and moral theater. Every platform, every leader, every influencer wants the same thing: your attention, your trust, your surrender. But here's where awareness becomes power. Once you see that kindness can be a calculated move, you stop reacting emotionally and start responding consciously. You no longer melt at sweet words or pleasing tones. You pause. You observe. You ask, what does this kindness seek to gain? That moment of awareness, that pause, is the beginning of liberation. Because control thrives on instinct. Manipulation depends on reaction. But when you stop reacting, you break the rhythm that sustains control. Machiavelli's wisdom gives you that pause, a space between stimulus and response where clarity lives. He doesn't tell you to reject kindness. He tells you to master your perception of it. When you see kindness not as a gift but as a signal, you begin to decode intention. And once intention is visible, deception dies. That is the sixth law of the hidden power of kindness. When you see the strategy, you take the power back. Every manipulator loses their weapon the moment you recognize it. Every false savior loses their aura the moment you question it. Because power at its core is an illusion. And illusions cannot survive the light of awareness. The game of control reverses when you understand the game. Kindness, once seen for what it truly is, becomes neutral again. No longer a spell, no longer a chain. It returns to what it was always meant to be, a choice, not a cage. And that is the first step toward freedom and the power to choose how you interpret kindness rather than be ruled by it. Part 7. The strength to be kind. There is a higher form of kindness, one that Machiavelli hinted at, though few ever understood it. It is the kindness that needs nothing in return. The kindness that does not manipulate, perform, or demand gratitude. It is kindness born of clarity, not of weakness. When the wise man shows compassion, he does it not to gain loyalty, but to affirm his humanity. He gives not because he seeks control, but because he refuses to become like those who abuse it. This is the evolution of Machiavellian wisdom, turning awareness into integrity. Because once you understand how kindness can control, you can finally use it to liberate. The strong are kind not because it benefits them, but because it defines them. They do not weaponize love, they embody it. They do not manipulate, they uplift. To be aware of control and still choose compassion is the ultimate mastery. That's what separates wisdom from cunning and consciousness from strategy. Machiavelli might have taught princes how to rule others, but the modern philosopher must learn to rule himself, to govern his own emotions, his own intentions, his own kindness. Because kindness without awareness is naive, but awareness without kindness is cruelty. Only the union of both creates true strength. That is the seventh law of the hidden power of kindness. The strongest heart is both kind and awake. And this is where the journey leads, beyond manipulation, beyond strategy, into something greater, the conscious use of power. A state where kindness is no longer a weapon, but wisdom in motion. Where giving does not enslave, but empowers. Where control is no longer the goal, and only understanding. This is the transformation Machiavelli never wrote, but every seeker must live. To learn the dark laws of power only to rise above them. To see manipulation and choose integrity. To master the art of influence and still remain human. Ending. The awakening of the mind. Kindness, control, power. Three forces that have shaped every civilization, every relationship, every act of leadership in history. Machiavelli showed us their structure, the framework beneath human behavior. But it is up to us to decide how to use that knowledge. The weak will continue to be ruled by appearances. They will chase approval, obey comfort, and surrender to kindness that flatters their ego. They will mistake being liked for being loved, and being controlled for being cared for. But the awakened, the ones who see, will rise above the illusion. They will recognize the game and choose not to play it. They will give without expecting, love without trapping, lead without deceiving. This is the final lesson. True power is not in control, it's in clarity. Because once you see the truth, no one can use kindness against you again. Once you understand the hidden power, you can wield it with purpose, not with pride. Be kind, but be conscious. Be gentle, but be grounded. Be giving, but never give away your awareness. That is the path of the wise. That is the balance between heart and mind, between compassion and command. Machiavelli taught the world how rulers manipulate. But you are not here to rule others. You are here to rule yourself. So take back your mind. Take back your emotions. Take back your power.
And the next time someone offers you kindness, smile back.
But see with wisdom, not with blindness. Because in a world built on deception, awareness itself is the greatest kindness of all.